All right. Today we are looking at the Jinhao 159 and comparing it to the Jinhao X159. Here we have the 159 in green and the X159 in this eggplant color that almost looks black. Despite the very similar model number, they're very different pens, and I have a couple of the 159s that are ballpoint or rollerball, depending on which of the refills you stick into the pen. I don't remember what I have in this one. It's a Jinhao brand one, but I don't even remember what the 159 rollerball ships with, if it's a rollerball insert or and I shouldn't say insert, I should say cartridge, or if it's a ballpoint cartridge. The 159 itself is a favorite of mine. I actually had this pen. I'm going to call it a rollerball because I think that's rollerball insert. Cartridge, excuse me. I have to stop doing that. I had this before I had the 159 fountain pen. It's all metal. The refill, I believe, is a standard international profile refill as opposed to the European refill. There are pilot refills you can get for it. With some modification, you can get a Mont Blanc refill into it. This was a favorite pen of mine for a while, just because of how smoothly I managed to get it to write with some of the third-party cartridges that are out there. How about that? I said cartridge instead of insert. I like the weight of it. I like the tactile feel of it. This is the 159 fountain pen. Again, all metal. That is a number 6 nib, if I'm not mistaken. This one is 18K gold plated. And it's a medium. Writes fairly smoothly, smoother than my Lamy pen, smoother than some of my Monteverde pens. Although I think the fountain pen community normally enjoys dunking on Monteverde pens more than using them. They can be quite good pens if you tune the nib. Drinking some coffee while recording this. This is the X159, and I've owned this longer than the 159 fountain pen. This is actually an eggplant color. You can't really tell on camera. Even in the lighting in the room that I'm in, it's difficult to tell in person. The X159 is the newer of the two pen models, and I think that it's representative of a process that Jinhao specifically follows, where they release a all-metal version of a pen and then follow it up with a plastic or resin version. The X159 is a plastic or resin material. I don't know the difference. This one has a custom cap and barrel stub nib in it. Ground myself. In terms of that process where they release an all-metal pen and follow it up with a plastic or resin one, you also see that with the Jinhao 10 versus the Jinhao 20. They changed the model number quite a bit with that, though, as opposed to just putting an X in front of it. So side by side, you can see there's some profile differences between these two pens. The 159 is a hair longer than the X159. The caps are not interchangeable. You can kind of make the 159 cap stick on the X159, but it's not threading. And meanwhile, the X159 cap just does nothing on the 159 barrel. And here's a bit of a nib comparison. Number 6 on the left for the 159, number 8 on the right for the X159. Given the similarities of the pens, I have not tried sticking a number 8 nib into the 159. I had thought about potentially doing that, trying it anyway, but once I had my first 159 fountain pen on hand, that idea pretty much was thrown out the window, realizing that it's not just the nib size, but it's the actual structure of the nib section that is different. So we're going to create a little bit of a chart here, itemized list, chart, whatever, to compare the differences and maybe some of the similarities. And first off, there is, of course, the material. The 159 feels like a much more premium pen just because it's metal. The X159 doesn't necessarily feel cheap, I don't think, but if you prefer a heavier pen, that distinction is substantial. And of course, there's the nib size difference. So, like I said, the smaller nib on the 159 is a number 6, I believe. And the larger nib on the X159 is an 8. So, in addition to that, we have the 159 is a hair longer. And it's not just the hair longer. When you look at the cap especially, as opposed to the butt end of the barrel, the end is an entirely different rounded shape. The threads that secure the cap to the barrel on the 159 are metal. You can see that right there in my hand. On the X159, it's that plastic or resin material. It is just sort of etched into the side on the X159. The inserts for the cap, I'm pretty certain that the insert into the 159 that includes the threads is an actual resin, but for the X159, I don't know. I can't tell the difference there. It's maybe with magnification I'd be able to get a better idea, but I don't know. It feels different when you stick your pinky in there. Have a little more of this coffee, maybe. So, looking at those caps, the 159 cap is, I'm going to say it's in excess of 1/4 of an inch longer. I mean, just look at them. They just look not just different length, but different shape. Let's take a look at the converters. I don't remember what each pen is packing there. Remember, the 159 has the metal threads. Oh, look at that. The X159 does on the inside as well. I had forgotten about that. But it looks like they both use the same exact beefy converter, which is not really much of a surprise. I believe the 9019 uses the same converter. One thing I will say about Jinhao is that these specific converters are pretty good. You can see that the 159 section does not thread into the X159 section does not thread into the 159 body, or vice versa. They just don't fit. So the nib section on both pens are distinctly for their specific models. I don't know what possible benefit that would have from a manufacturing or a product perspective, considering the X159 and the 9019 have several interchangeable parts ranging from the nib and the feed and the converter, that the only apparent interchangeable parts between the 159 and the X159 being the converter is somewhat interesting. The feeds are very different. The X159's feed is substantial, while the feed on the 159 is much narrower. And of course, there's the distinction between the nibs. This gold-plated 18K gold plating on the 159 nib that I have is nice. It's a nice nib to write with. When I received it, I had to do nothing in the way of tuning. Meanwhile, the all-steel nib on the X159, that's not fair, almost every steel Jinhao nib I had on a 159 or 9019 I had to tune. But I also own a large number of those, and I'll use them when grinding a specific type of nib because they're so readily available and relatively inexpensive, and with a little effort they can write quite well. Superficially, the band clips are different with the band clip on the 159 is branded. The cap band is wider on the 159 than the X159. Again, remember the 159 is in green, the X159 is in eggplant, looks almost black on camera. Let's get these reassembled. Finally, I would say that the weight difference between the two pens is noteworthy. If you like a lighter pen, you're probably going to prefer the X159. You can see the difference between these two pens. Remember, the yellow is the Rollerball while the green is the fountain pen. These parts are completely interchangeable. I could take the sections off both pens and swap them between cap and barrel. And that's nice. But that's pretty much it. There are a lot of differences between these pens. Don't let people fool you. And if you own one, I hope you enjoy it.